Hi friends, hope you are having a lovely day today, and today we're going to talk about what photographers can take from good cinema photography. And I thought there would not be a better movie to reference for this than one of my all-time favorites, which is Die Hard, the original. Very clear, the original. One quick aside. Do you remember back when in action movies, police cars would show up by sliding sideways in a completely dramatic and unrealistic fashion? I used to be infuriated by this, but now it's quite nostalgic. Back to the point. From the thoughtful compositions to the moody lighting to the insane lens flares, Die Hard, the original, is a masterpiece of cinema photography. Take this frame from the scene where Hans is in his newly claimed office and he's about to receive a call from John on the walkie-talkie to his surprise. And in this shot, you can see one thing that's going to ring true throughout all of cinema as a general rule, which is you get level with your subject. Your camera should shoot a straight line at your subject's head. And you see that here. Since he's sitting down, the camera is quite low. The angle uses foreground elements to frame Hans and give this sense of depth along with the very intentional and moody dark lighting. Because of this framing, you get a deep sense of depth and context, and it's quite engaging. As we move forward in this scene, Hans receives a surprise walkie-talkie phone call, that'd be a good band name, from John. And you're immediately snapped into this overhead shot. And like I said a second ago, generally in cinema, the rule is to stay level with your subject unless you're deciding to make a stylistic choice to break away from that. Because of the dramatic shift in the mood of the scene, they use this dramatic angle to give a sense of intensity. As Hans receives a reply from John, aka Bruce Willis, in a tank top, the camera dramatically drops down below him to give this feeling that this is about to be a very intense exchange. As we move forward in the scene and the conversation starts to progress, we're presented with this angle of Hans, which is kind of back to where we were, which is level, but actually a little bit lower, signifying this idea of a sense of power. As we move forward in the conversation, you can see that John Bruce is crouched down and the camera is on his level. Once again. A side note and an ode to expression, which I always talk about on this channel, here you can see Hans break into a very hilariously confused look as John says this.
Sorry, Hans, wrong guess. Would you like to go for double jeopardy where the scores can really change?
We move forward and another stylistic choice is made to shoot down on John, and this gives a sense of interest and it keeps the scene fresh. Also, that guy on the floor seems to be a messy eater when it comes to sauces. The conversation progresses, and as John proceeds to throw witty remarks at Hans, we're treated to this scene where, just like Hans, we're looking slightly up, giving this sense of power. So here with this scene, we see a sense of depth, but also there's another concept that's represented here that has to be done a little bit differently in photography, but I think it still applies. There's a sense of parallax as the camera moves past these doors. The conversation rolls on, and we're treated to a lovely representation of the rule of thirds, giving context to what's going on around him. You see it here, and in a wider shot here. This is a thoughtful and pretty genius use of composition. Freaking love Die Hard. And finally, John, Bruce, in a tank top with an MP4, very manly, in this beautiful dark scene is placed right next to a stark light, which gives this sense of light. Dramatic and engaging. This movie in its entirety, from a cinematographer's point of view, is so fantastical that I can always come back to it if I need inspiration, and I'm confused about my life purpose. Anyway, if you haven't watched Die Hard, the original, I would violently encourage you to check it out. I hope this video is inspiring to you. I had a lot of fun making it and breaking down these scenes. And so I hope that rubbed off. So I hope you guys have a lovely day. Oh my gosh, his knees are gone. Oh!